Good morning, everyone. It's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. So today we are going to look at the April 2025 Paper Pumpkin Kit. And so I have, I think, around 10 or 11 different alternate ideas for you. So just some fun ways that you can use the kit differently if you choose to do that. So we are going to actually make the cards that I have laid out right in front of us. But before we do that, I'm going to just show you what the kit looked like and kind of what the projects were for this particular kit. So let's move some of these. I'm going to move these out of the way. And these are the cards actually that you could make with this kit. Oh, I lost my light here. All right. So these are the cards as designed by the kit. So every time I get the kit, I like to just kind of make some of the samples that were in the kit. And then I take the rest of the supplies and then I do the alternate designs. So these are the three different designs. So you could make three of each of these three different designs. And I have the stamp set here. I'll show you what the stamp set looks like. I like to put my stamp set in a little case. So in case you guys are wondering what this is just one of the Stampin' Up! Clear cases. So these are the images that were in this particular stamp set. And then I also decided to use the Hugs a Bloom dies. So a lot of the cards that I'm going to show you today, I featured just some of these different dies that coordinated with this month's kit. So that's what you'll find. And then the other thing is the kit also came with coordinating envelopes. So there were 9 envelopes that all had this little design on the bottom. So this time I decided not to cut up the envelopes. I just kind of left them as is, and I'll use those for my cards. So I don't know. I'm wondering if I can get my light to come back on. Is that a little bit better? My light seems to be going in and out. So anyways, so this is one of the alternate designs. We'll start with this particular card. What I like to do with all of the supplies that come in the kit is I like to cut up the card bases. So each of these three different cards had a card base that had the same design on the front and the back. So basically I just cut the card bases directly in half so that I end up with 18 sheets of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch pieces. So basically this, was a card base front and back. So I cut them all up and then I basically use them as designer paper. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to just see if I can fix this light here. I don't know what the deal is. Hopefully it looks okay for you guys. There, getting a little bit of light back. All right. So let's start with this one. So for this card, so in the kit, there was a Berry Burst. Where'd it go? A Berry Burst ink spot. So that's the ink that came in the kit. So I just coordinated some of the card bases that I'm using with that Berry Burst. So that's what this is. This is a Berry Burst card base, just your A2 size card base. And then I created a bunch of different pieces here. So I cut up some of the card bases. Let me grab these pieces. And these pieces are 1 inch wide and they are 4 1/4 inches long. So I just have 3 of them here and I'm just going to create, just a little fun little background. And I see I got a little bit of fuzz on the side. I'm just using my old Stampin' Up! Sanding block. Had a little fuzz on the side of that. All right, and so this piece in the center here is just a piece of white cardstock, which is 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. So these pieces are just going to go right across here. So you have a lot of you have a lot of possibilities with this particular design because there's a lot of card base pieces that you can use to cut up to this size. So let's see, I'm going to just adhere this. We'll just, of course, my glue's not going to work. My light's not working. Everything's not working this morning. Maybe I should just stop while I'm ahead, right? So we'll just adhere all of these pieces straight across this white piece. So I really like this, the card bases that came in this kit because I like that alcohol ink look. But sometimes that alcohol ink can be quite bold, and it was in this case. So it was kind of fun to just kind of cut these pieces up and use them differently. All right, so that's our basic panel card design. And then I'm going to add a 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch piece of black cardstock. And I'm going to add this just right behind here. So let's add a little bit of glue. So as I was creating these alternate designs, I end up with, some extra pieces, little scrap pieces. So I just like to use those scrap pieces up. And that's what I did with this. You can mat this completely out if you want. Put a piece of black cardstock completely behind this piece, but I just decided to add just a little pop of black up in the corner. All right, and then it basically involves just adding some of these little elements from that die set. So I cut all these little pieces using that Hugs of Bloom die. So if you missed it, this is what the die looks like. It has this actually says hugs, and then it has some little flowers and leaves and different things. So I use that to decorate this card. So basically we're just going to add these. Now before I die cut these pieces, I added an adhesive sheet to the back of a piece of white cardstock, and then I die cut these pieces out. So I have adhesive adhered right to the back of this die cut piece. It just makes it so much easier to add these pieces instead of trying to put glue on there. Let's put this one down here first. And then we'll put that one in the middle. So this die set really coordinates nicely with, of course, this particular kit. We'll add that. And then we'll just add our little greeting, which I did the same thing. I just cut the greeting from some black cardstock. And then I put a little adhesive sheet on the back of that black cardstock so that I have adhesive on my greeting. And then we can just add this right about here. And then for these particular cards, I used those little iridescent foiled gems. Those seem to be my go-to gems. So we'll just add a couple of these on here. All right. And that's basically our first card. So like I said, if you cut up the card bases, you can make quite a few of this particular alternate card design. So it's pretty basic. And you can change out the card base too to the different colors that are in here. All right, so that is our first card. So then the second card idea, I'm still using those little die cut pieces. So for this one, I decided to do a little bit of embossing on my card base. So this is just, again, an A2 size card base. So it's 5.5 by 4.25. So I used the Exposed Brick 3D embossing folder. And then for this particular design, what I did is I just took one of these card bases and I just cut it in half. So I cut it in half on the 4.25 inch side. So this is just half of that card base. So it's 2 1/8 by 5.5. And so it goes the full length of the card. And then I just added a little bit of Pool Party cardstock behind it. So this one is 2 3/8 inch wide. So if you want to cut your card bases in half, you could make 2 cards with just the front or the back of your card base. So that's why I like creating these alternative designs, because you can get quite a few cards from just one paper pumpkin kit. All right, let's mat this out good here. I'm gonna just trim this because I have a little excess. I have a little excess hanging off the side. So you can just take a scissors and just trim that off. All right. Now let's add this to the card front. So I really liked this blue together. This blue and the pink, and well, I guess it's berry, but the blue, the pink, the purple, that all looks just really nice together. All right, so what do I need to do next? Where is my, I have to find my greeting. I had my greeting sitting out, and now it's gone. Maybe I will put it back. Let's see. Well, I thought I had my greeting out, so let's take our greeting out of here. And we'll just stamp this on there. So I stamped the greeting on here just using some Highland Heather ink. Instead of using the berry, I just decided to use this. So we'll just stamp that up there. All right, and now we're just going to decorate it with these little elements that I die cut. And again, they have adhesive on the back. So I cut 2 little flowers, and then I cut just one of the leaves here. And I'm just going to cut this in half. We're going to use half on one part and half on the other. So let's figure out which one I did. I did this one on the top. So this has adhesive on it already, so you can just add that. And then we'll put the flower on top. We'll just kind of overlap it a little bit. And then this one we'll do the same. So you only have to die cut one of the leaf shapes here and just cut it in half. There. And then we'll put this off to the side here. Let's see if I can cover that up a little bit. There we go. All right, so that's basically all there is to it for this design. Excuse me. And in this particular kit, there are, this is actually the paper that was on the back side of, I think this card is what it was. Yeah. All right, so that is the second card design. Pretty simple and just a fun way to use those die cut shapes. Oh, you could add some little gems. Let's do that quick. Let's add some of these little gems here. There we go. Now it's finished. And if you have any extra leftover paper, you can add that to the inside of the card to decorate the inside of the card. So, all right, so that is the second card idea. And let's see. Whoops. Our third one is somewhere over here. Here it is. Another pretty simple design. We're going to do the same thing with this card. Is basically I just cut a card base in half. So this is 2 1/8, and then I cut it down to 5¼ inches. So it would have been 2 1/8 by 5½, but I just cut it down a little bit to 5¼ so it will fit on my card base the way I have this design anyways. So I wanted just a little bit of that white matting kind of showing around it. And then I just embossed a piece of white cardstock. This is just a 4 by 5¼ inch piece of white cardstock. I just embossed the whole thing. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of paper tearing right about here. We're going to go, we want it to overlap onto this card base. So let's just do some paper tearing. And I just made it a little bit bigger because then I can use this extra piece to create another card if I want. So let's see if I got that. That looks pretty good. So we can add that. You guys know me and my paper tearing. And we'll add this off to the left side. And then I just used some of the elements from the kit. So these are some of the pieces from the kit. Since I did not make all the designs from the kit, I have some leftover little elements I can use. So we are going to adhere this together. So this is one of the greetings from the kit. And basically I'm just going to turn this and adhere it right like that. And then we'll add some dimensionals to that. So I think there's three of these little elements because you could create 3 cards from the kit. So if you like this alternate design, you could make 3 of them. And then this just goes right in the middle. And then we'll add our little gems. And we'll add another one up here. All right, that's a quick and simple one. So, all right, so that is the 3rd card. And then for this last card idea, I decided to bring in one of the stamp sets that I had on hand. So in this particular paper pumpkin kit, where did the stamp set go? I'll just grab this. There were only these little butterflies in here for creating some alternate designs. So there wasn't a larger image. But what I like to do with pattern paper like this, you know, whether it's alcohol ink or just kind of background paper, is just stamp an image right on it. And so I decided to use, to kind of pull in the Spotlight on Nature. You can use any stamp set you want. It doesn't have to be this one. And you can just stamp an image right in the background on this particular paper. So that's what I'll show you. I'll show you what I did. So I have a 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch piece of just one of those patterns. And I just have to grab a scrap piece of paper. So let's grab this. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to stamp this large flower image right on this paper. So I'm going to use some Early Espresso ink. I like to use Early Espresso. You can definitely use black, but the Early Espresso is so dark that it looks black. So we are just going to stamp this right on there. And it just gives it a really cool look. And then we're just going to add this to our card. So So let's move this out of the way. So I have Berry Burst for the card base. And then I have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of black cardstock. And then we have this little piece that is going to go kind of right in the center. I think I might offset it a little bit. So let's add that. Let's add it right in the center right away. And we'll kind of add it in the center. And then I just cut some other little pieces here. So these are 2 inches wide and they're 3 3/4 inches long. So I have 2 of them. And basically what we're going to do is just kind of hold this up. I just want to do a little bit of paper tearing along the side. So I just added some embossed white cardstock kind of along the side. Let's see how that looks. Might have to tear a little bit more. So let's tear a little bit more up towards the top. So I just gave myself a little bit of wiggle room, I guess, for this piece. Let's go ahead and add that. And then we'll just do the same thing for the other side. We'll just tear this piece. So I got quite a bit to tear. Maybe I can just use this one. Nope. Nope, we can't. So let's go right about here. Oops, yeah. I'm gonna do a little bit more. See how that looks. A little bit more. All right, hopefully I didn't make it too small. There we go. And that's all there is to it. So you just do a little bit of paper tearing on each side, or you can just cut pieces. You don't have to do paper tearing, I guess. But I like the look of the paper tearing. And we'll just add that. And then we just need to stamp a little greeting. So for this one, I'm just going to grab my stamp. All right. And this one is I'm here for you. So for this one, I'm just going to use that early espresso, or if you just want to use black, you can just use black and stamp your little greeting. So let's stamp this on here. So this is just one of the pieces from the kit. This is just one of the pieces for the greeting. You can just use a piece of white cardstock if you don't have any of these leftover pieces. And I'm just going to trim this down a little bit with my scissors. All right, so let's add this. We'll add this right away to the card base. And then I'll show you all the other designs that I just kind of played around with. So let's get this greeting on here. And this one I decided not to add any additional gems or anything like that. I just kind of left it as is. And this will just go right off the side here. All right, so that is the 4th card design. Pretty simple and just kind of a different way to use the kit supplies. So let me bring back these cards. So here are the Berry and the black. Oops. Let's do this one like that. And then I'll just show you some of the other card designs. So then this one did the same kind of thing. I just put a piece of that card base across the center and did a little paper tearing above and below. And this actually came in the kit, this large greeting here. So I just used that and added some die cut pieces to that. And then this one, I just kind of used that background, um, or use that paper as a background, excuse me, and just added a little greeting and then some of those die cut pieces. Let's see if I can get them all up here. I don't know why it's so dark, you guys. And then this one, same thing, paper tearing, added some different die cut elements. And then here I just used some of these little pieces. This is one of the pieces that came in the kit. So it looks like this. It goes across the whole entire card. So I just snipped it right here. And I used just this leaf part on this particular card. So it's a pretty simple design. And then I used the remainder of that piece on this card. So this is actually, these two pieces were actually one long piece. So I'm running out of room. I'm running out of room to put all these on here. And then here's another one where I just used some of those other stamps from different stamp sets and created a little focal point. So the background paper here is the card base from the kit. So I just die cut some pieces out and created this little design. And then here again is another one where I just used that alcohol ink paper for the background and just stamped these images on there. So lots of fun ways to use this kit. You don't necessarily have to, just use the supplies that come in the kit. You can add your own stamp sets. You can add your own cardstock, and you can come up with lots of alternate designs. So hopefully you guys can see all this. Let me see if I can get back on screen. There we go. Okay. So hopefully this wasn't too dark. Maybe it was just dark on my end. But so those are the alternate designs. There's, I think I said 11 different designs. Like I said, you can mix and match, add your own little stamp sets here and use those card bases just as pattern paper. So stamp images on them, cut them up and use them as different layers on your card. So there's lots of fun things that you can do with them. And I will get these projects out on the blog for you and get you all the measurements so that if you want to create any of these alternate designs, you'll be able to do that with this particular kit. So if you do cut up the card bases, like I said, you'll get 18 pieces of pattern paper, 18 card bases that are 5.5 by 4.25 inches. So it'll give you lots of opportunities, lots of different things that you can do with it. So, all right, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed these card ideas. And I did, let's see, I think I did link to Paper Pumpkin in the description with this video. And like I said, I'll get these out for you on the blog, and I'll share that link out on my Facebook page, the link to my blog once I get these out there. So, all right. So I hope you enjoyed these alternate ideas, and I hope you're inspired to play with your Paper Pumpkin kit just in a different way. So have a wonderful rest of your day and a great week, and I'll see you guys again next week. So take care, everybody.